What's good, everybody? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by DistroKid. They are the go-to for digital music distribution and the easiest way for musicians to get their music onto Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, TikTok, YouTube, and more. They offer unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of their earnings, getting your music onto platforms and into stores 10 to 20 times faster than any other distributor. They help with cover song clearance, automatic splits, and they offer all kinds of tools and templates to help you get the most visibility for your releases. I dig this company and appreciate their business model that offers more features and tools than any other distributor while doing it at the most affordable price for solo artists, bands, DJs, studio artists, and any other creators that are making music or producing music in their home, and they offer label services as well. They've got 3 different tiers that they offer to creators that start as low as $22.99 a year. That's just $1.92 a month. And even their top tier is only $7.50 per month. And the best part about DistroKid sponsoring the podcast is they are offering Dan Cable Presents listeners 30% off their first year of service with DistroKid, making their affordable prices even cheaper for you. I will put that discount link in the episode notes. It will also be in my Instagram bio. Big shout out to DistroKid for sponsoring this podcast for more than 3 years now. Much appreciated. Now let's get into the episode.
Looking down at the corner of the slow
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dan Cable Presents podcast. Thank you for tuning into the program once again. If this is your first time listening, thanks for checking out the show. You can find fresh episodes coming at you every Tuesday. And if you want to help support this thing in a free way, you can do so by clicking subscribe on iTunes, clicking write a review, giving the podcast 5 stars if you feel like it is deserving of so, and that will help propel this thing into the tops of those iTunes charts, giving it more visibility on the national and international levels, helping strangers find the podcast, and just a great way to, raise the signal of this thing. Free way to do so. Appreciate the people that have already taken the time to do so. If you're not listening on Apple, just hit like, follow, subscribe wherever you are listening from. Give it 5 stars on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe there. And check out the monthly playlists that I've been dropping every first of the month. Those are pretty spread out genre-wise and just a snapshot of what I'm listening to throughout the month. Links for those will be in the episode notes. Hope everybody is doing well out there. Stoked to share episode 425 with Portland-based trumpet player Noah Simpson. Killer player, and this was my first time getting to chat or hang with Noah, and I just had a lot of fun with this conversation, and it seemed to take some fun turns and not always center on music, but I think I definitely got inside the mind of Noah Simpson and got to maybe understand his philosophies for playing and teaching and what has shaped those things along the way. So big thanks to Noah for jumping on the mics with me, taking the time to chat. This is another artist that is playing the MONTAVILLA Jazz Festival, which is coming up in just a couple weeks here, Friday, August 30th through Sunday, September 1st, multi-venue festival. It's got a great lineup, and Noah Simpson is playing the festival 4 times. He will be playing on Sunday at 2 p.m. with his group Domino. And then he's got this late night slot every night of the festival, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 10 p.m. He will be at the 1905 doing a late night set to close out each night. So lots of opportunity to see Noah perform there. Also, a couple weeks back, I had Adriana Wagner on. She will also be playing the festival. So if you enjoy this chat, go back, check that one out. And also mentioned in this conversation is Mike Gamble and Machado Machiga. They're both playing the festival as well, and they've also been recent guests. If you want to cruise back to those. And lastly, I will be DJing on Saturday night of the Jazz Festival, August 30th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. over at Beer Bunker. Really looking forward to doing that set. Very stoked about it. And all the links for the MONTAVILLA Jazz Festival and Noah Simpson will be in the episode notes. And with all that, we are going to jump into this thing, and to kick the episode off, we're going to play a track from Domino from their record Free. This track is called Introiter. The band is made up of Mike Gamble, Daniel Rossi, and the guest for this episode, Noah Simpson. Now let's do the damn thing.
Other than that, we can jump into it, man.
Let's get it.
I'm excited to have you here, Noah. I feel like I've gotten to see you play a decent amount of music around town over, I don't know, the last several years in many different outfits, but have never formally gotten to meet you or have any sort of conversation with you. So
It's funny. I feel the same way because I listen to the podcast.
but I've seen your name pop up so much on flyers, or Machado kind of like started this thing where he, said like, oh, you got to get Mike Gamble on here. And then I've been kind of asking people who they think should be on the podcast, and Gamble, he was like, oh, you got to have Noah Simpson on this thing. I was like, cool, that dude's on the radar. So here we are.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. Just to, get things going, can you talk to me just about your entry point into playing music and getting on the trumpet at an early age?
Yeah, trumpet's interesting. I started playing when I was in the 4th grade.
Okay.
We had a trumpet in our house growing up. It was my grandfather's cornet. And it was more just like an oddity that we just kind of had, and I would kind of, like mess around with it. But growing up, I actually had some issues with my fine motor skills in my hands.
Okay.
So like I had to go to like handwriting camp, and like I had to have these like special pencils because I essentially couldn't grip a pencil properly.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that was suggested was this kid should play the trumpet because you have to have your hand kind of separated out like that to work every single one of the valves. It requires those fine motor skills. So my mom got me a trumpet, and I started playing music right around then.
So it was like almost like physical therapy.
It's very. I mean, I was in physical therapy,
but like the trumpet was good exercise for that.
it was very, very good exercise for physical therapy. And actually, funny enough, around that time is when it got a lot better.
That's amazing.
Right? Like all these things to try to get worked out, handwriting camp, special pencils, going to see these different doctors to look at my tendons. Like the thing that really, really helped was playing the trumpet.
A musical instrument healed you in some ways.
They say music heals, so there we go.
Yeah, physically healing you up.
Yeah, I started playing like 4th grade, and then, I really started taking music seriously once I hit high school. I'm from this really small town in Arizona called Cave Creek.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's very isolated kind of from people. And so like, I didn't really get a lot of chances to hang out with people outside of school. So like getting to be in band and stay late and go early and go and do this, like that was like a whole thing. So I started taking music a lot more seriously then. Started a band in high school, and then, when it came time to graduate, I was like, I don't think I can do anything else. Like I got to do music. So went to community college, made it happen. And then, yeah, I ended up getting some money to move up here and go to Portland State, and then just, it's been 10 years now. Crazy to think about.
That's awesome. Cave Creek, is that the spot right outside of Scottsdale?
Yeah. I mean, you've been to Cave Creek?
I've been to Scottsdale. My grandparents were living in Scottsdale for a couple years, so I've been through Cave Creek. It's a little, like, kind of a motorcycle hub. Yeah.
It's very much. This is crazy. I'm talking to someone who knows about Cave Creek. Yeah, it's a motorcycle hub. It's that town on the back side of a mountain. You go behind the mountain. There's a bunch of motorcycles. And it's like cowboys and motorcycles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Little hippie-ish in parts of it too.
Little
like
hippie-ish in parts of
a
it.
different
It's
type of that.
It's
I
not
guess.
like to be clear, it's not like an Oregon hippie. You know what I
No,
mean? This
no.
is very much like an Arizona hippie. An Arizona hippie is very different than an Oregon hippie. An Arizona hippie is someone who is kind of like about that free life, but is also just a little bit more rough around the edges. You know what I mean?
There's something leathery about their skin.
Something leathery about
from
their
that
skin.
sun.
Whenever I talked about people, like the difference between like Oregonians and people from Arizona, it's like everything in Arizona low key would kill you if it came down to it. You know what I mean? They were just like, yeah, if it comes down to it, everyone's carrying, everyone's just like a little bit on edge, and everyone, especially in Portland, it's just like, well, you're just like super, super chill, man.
Yeah.
Confrontation happens. Hey, man, let's just chill out, man.
Yeah.
Arizona, it's like, what are you gonna do? What are we gonna do? It's just like, whoa.
But yeah, man, I imagine being out there wasn't a lot of music community, like you're saying, outside of whatever you were getting out of a school program.
Especially live music, like the idea of like going out and seeing live music was not super, super common. But my mom always put me in situations where I would be surrounded by music. We would go to church like every single Sunday, and the church had this exchange program with this Kenyan community, this Kenyan children's choir called the Children of the Watoto, and they would bring all these kids and they would go and they do all these concerts, but they didn't have any place to stay. And so my mom would open up our house and we'd have like
That's amazing.
12 of these kids come and stay, and we would just play music and sing. And so like opportunities like that, lots and lots of music lessons, lots and lots of, after school band programs. And then, when I was talking about, maybe I want to do this full time, I want to do this to be a living. She's like, let me know what we got to do. We're going to make it happen.
Just very supportive.
Very, very supportive. She always did what she could. I think she was real with me. I wanted to go to music school really, really bad, and I could not afford it. And she very much suggested that I don't take out the loans to do it, which now I realize is like,
I wish somebody would have told me that.
yeah. I mean, at the time it was almost like hurtful. It was like, what do you mean? Everyone else is doing this. I really want to do this. How am I going to do this if I don't do this? And she's like, this is the smartest thing you can do if you don't do it.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to community college for 2 years. And that was the best decision I think I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. Did you find yourself spending a lot of your free time dedicating to playing the trumpet?
Yeah.
Just even as a kid?
I was always really interested in music. We had a piano in the house growing up. I'd always fiddle around with that. But I always wanted to play the guitar.
Okay.
And so, I was playing trumpet in band, but I was like, Mom, I want to play guitar. Mom, I want to play guitar. And she's like, you don't know. But finally she was like, I'll get you a guitar. So she got me this guitar, and I still had that issue with the fine motor skills because I tried to play, lefty, and it didn't work. So I tried to flip it, still didn't even work.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'll get you music lessons for guitar. And so I remember I was taking both guitar and trumpet lessons from the same person, Robert Powers. Great dude.
It's like James Powers' uncle.
Like James, exactly, like James Powers' uncle. But my mom, once again, she's so incredible. She found this dude who was a professional guitar player and trumpet player, and was like, "You're gonna give my kid lessons."
Which is, I would assume, I don't know many people that are like masters at trumpet and guitar.
That's what I'm saying.
They seem like
She found this dude and then was like, "You're gonna give him a year of lessons."
That's
and
amazing.
Then it would take me to and from all the lessons.
how. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, this is the sad part of this story. So we would have trumpet lessons first and then guitar lessons. And one day after we finished our trumpet lesson, I put my trumpet down. I'm getting the guitar out. And he said, "Hey, before you take that out, just let's talk for a second." And he said, "You're pretty good at the trumpet. And, I could really see you going down a path with this and you playing this for the rest of life." you're terrible at guitar. You are terrible at the guitar. And he said, I'm not going to teach you guitar anymore. I'm not going to do it.
He just wouldn't let you invest that sort of time.
He said, if you want to do 2 hours of trumpet lessons, that's fine, but I will not teach you any more guitar.
What was your response to that?
At the time, I was super hurt because I don't think I had received that kind of musical honesty before.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I realize he was doing me a big favor, number one, but also he was just setting a boundary. He's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate it now. I think if I were to say that to someone, like, I'm not going to teach you this instrument anymore, that's like super, super hurtful, but it may be the thing you need to hear. Not to say like, you can't play music anymore, but like, this is not the path for you.
Well, that's the thing. He wasn't telling you to quit music.
No, he wasn't even telling me to stop playing guitar. He was telling me he was not going to teach me guitar anymore.
Yeah.
Which is fair. And honestly, I could pick that up. I could play some campfire guitar songs. That's literally it.
Did you keep playing though on your own a little bit?
No, my mom. After that happened, my mom was like, I told you she sold that freaking guitar.
That's amazing. How old were you during that at that time?
10, 11 maybe.
Yeah, pretty young kid getting
pretty
told
young,
like,
pretty
hey,
young.
put the guitar down.
And I had a lot of those moments growing up that were like hurtful, with people just being very brutally honest with me. And I treasure those moments because I know it may be the person who I am, but I would not do that if I was in that situation. I would not, be that kind of honest with that person. I would be honest, but not that kind of honest.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that like we do struggle with is like a lot of the people I talk to my age have a lot of those situations. It's like, I'm never going to do that. I'm not, I went through that. I'm not doing that. And I feel like we've kind of gone in the opposite direction where a lot of students aren't getting any kind of honesty. It's like they come in and they do something and we're like, all right, good. Yeah, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. You know what I mean? But like you won't get any constructive notes of like, hey, actually that didn't sound pretty good. Like you really need to go back and practice this. You know what I mean? So part of me now is trying to very slowly bring that in, but
yeah, I think it's about finding the middle ground there, about how to effectively communicate something to someone, because like you do need some of that in your life for the growth within a craft.
If you talk to someone and they say, oh, sounds good, and they can't be honest with you,
Yeah. I'm by no means a music teacher or a teacher in any right. I do feel very, I don't know, just I feel fortunate to be in a lot of situations where I get to see a lot of my friends play music, and maybe they will ask me, or I know they want feedback maybe after a set or maybe a song that they're working on. And I'm usually like a yes man, like for the most part, but I do choose my moments sometimes to let someone know like, hey, the set was great, but I do think this part could be better. And I know that because I'm usually the yes man, I think they maybe value that, or they know that something is up there.
You're just being real right now.
But I'm also like doing my best always for it to not come across as like something hurtful or malicious. Like I feel like I'm trying to give that to the people that want that.
That's the hard part, is what we do is so deeply personal. Mm-hmm. It's like I am showing you a reflection of myself. And when you tell me that isn't good, like that feels hurtful. And I can understand that. So how can you separate that and just be like objective? Like, okay, I'm showing you this very personal part of me, and someone is saying, well, I think this could be a little bit better. That's not saying that you are necessarily not good enough. It's that I know you could do better. Yeah.
I mean, even doing the podcast for so long without video, I would have a couple people that are close to me sometimes be like, hey man, I'm seeing a lot of podcast clips. I really feel like you need the video elements to maybe hit a different, widen the audience and whatnot. And I would just be like, what do you mean, man? I'm like working so hard on recording the audio and editing this thing. And I'm just like, I don't think I need the video. And, start doing the video and I start seeing the value in it, and it's just like, yeah, I did. You were right.
People love them reels, man.
That was what I needed for a certain audience to see the thing. For the people that aren't going to listen to an hour plus conversation and maybe just get something out of this clip, like it is, you need those people.
Well, you and me will like listen to an album all the way down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like the culture of now is short. It's like, how can you get the information to you as fast as you can?
Yeah.
Which is for better and for worse. You know what I mean? It makes us produce things in a certain way, but I do wish this long form media was more popular. Let's sit down, listen to an hour podcast. Let's listen to an entire record and not skip a track. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you always gravitate towards music from as a young person, like in that way where you would like to sit down and listen to a record front to back?
I mean, we had records growing up. My mom had a lot of Jackson 5, Anita Baker, so stuff like that. We would listen to it all the way down. We really didn't have a lot of options to, I'm trying to think of like early childhood, man. We didn't have a lot of options to like skip through stuff. A lot of like cassettes, you know what I mean? So like you can kind of fast forward, but you really didn't want to. You just listen to the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
It really wasn't until I got that little tiny iPod shuffle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like I would really try to like, skip through stuff. And then now that like I can just get anything on demand, it's just like, oh yeah, I can just kind of go all that. But currently, I mean, like if I really want to kind of get into a space, I will like put on an album and like lock my phone and just like, we're just going to listen to this whole entire thing and like really, really try to digest it.
Yeah, that's why I like going to the movie theater to watch a movie, is because I'm locked in this black box to watch this movie. I can't pick up the phone really in the middle. I'm just like throwing it on airplane mode, because if I'm at home watching a movie by myself,
You don't pull the phone out even if the movie's boring?
I'm going to at home.
You're going to.
At home,
I'm saying I'm pulling out the phone in
You're
the
doing
theater.
it in the theater. Low light mode, just
Bro, I was there. I was watching. I saw Long Legs.
didn't like it.
Man, like the big twist comes out, the phone comes out. I'm on Threads. I'm on Instagram. My lady's looking at me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like,
You're out.
I was like, I could leave right now.
Yeah, I didn't share that with Long Legs. I thought it was
It's hit or miss.
I thought it
with
was
people.
cool. It wasn't like mind blowing to me. I think I feel like so many horror movies get hyped up as like, this is the scariest movie since The Exorcist, and then I'm just like, well, I didn't think that movie was scary at all. I thought it was thrilling at moments, but I had that moment during like Barbarian.
Oh yeah,
I hated that. That movie got so much love, and spoiler alert, as soon as they showed the person in the basement halfway through, I was like, fuck this movie.
We're done.
I'm out.
We're done. Isn't that crazy?
Why'd you show the thing? That was the mystery of the thing is over, and there's 45 minutes left in this movie.
Yo, I'm not gonna watch the.
I was so irritated. The movie was over, I started booing. I was at home and I let out an audible boo. It was just
When you're booing on the couch, that's how you know how bad it is. So, I mean, when I went with Long Legs, okay, so I'm going with horror fans. Like, my lady, her sister and her friends are like big horror fans.
Yeah.
And the first time I met them was to go see a movie. Like, we're going to go see a movie. We're going to go see a scary movie. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll be cool,
Yeah.
be personable, just be chill. It'll be nice. And the movie is Midsummer. That's not even like a scary movie. It's a terrifying movie. It puts you in like a really, truly deep, unsettling state. And I didn't see the other one. What was the one?
Hereditary?
I didn't see Hereditary before that. So I didn't know Ari Aster's work.
much different movie also.
Yeah, but I realized that this dude knows how to like really make you uncomfortable and unsettling. So I'm watching this movie and I'm trying to be chill, and I can't be chill. I end up getting up and leaving for a minute, walking down the hallway and like taking a breath, being
Yeah.
like, okay, like we're all good. Going back, like I just had to go to the bathroom. We're like totally all good. You know what I mean? So I thought I was taking that recommendation, like, oh, Long Legs is gonna be really good, and I was like, Nick Cage is in it, like it's gonna be good, and I was just so disappointed.
You liked Midsummer though, aside from you needing to take a breath?
Any piece of media that elicits a response, I feel like is good. Even albums that I hate, I like.
Yeah.
because it makes me feel so. I'm like, wow, I really don't like this. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting something from this.
I love Midsummer. That's one of my favorite movies, actually. And because of what you're talking about, I almost had a similar response to that movie. Especially, I will not give this away because
Yeah, I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil this one. Yeah,
and it happens so early in the movie that I don't want to spoil it. But there's a moment how that movie opens, and there that made me so uncomfortable.
yeah.
I was probably a little high too, and that's not a movie I needed to get high for before I walked into the theater. I got a little too stoned for a movie that is that intense. But the other beautiful thing about that movie is that it's daytime almost the entire time.
It's a very bright movie,
and it's beautiful. Like, it looks beautiful, but yeah, there's just something so unsettling throughout that entire movie. It's beautiful.
What do you think the musical equivalent of Midsummer is? That's something that makes you just feel uncomfortable. And I feel like sometimes, it's like, oh, like I don't understand this and I feel uncomfortable. It's like, no, I'm talking about music that makes you physically feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it right now, but I recently got turned on to this band called Water From Your Eyes. And I was telling them about this. I saw them at Pickathon and I got to chat with them, and I was telling them that the thing that I loved about this particular album, or a lot of their complete albums, is that the sequencing feels so psychotic to me, where they're going from this cute little folksy tune, and all of a sudden it's going into this industrial experimental song next, where it is unsettling in that way, where and I have no way, especially on a first listen, to know where its direction is. There's just like no getting a grip on the thing, because it's like then the next track is spoken word, and I'm like, what is happening here? That Max Brown record,
This one right here,
or the Suite for Max Brown record there. That record is another one of those records that that kind of did that for me. That's a Jeff Parker record.
Oh, awesome.
And a Suite for Max Brown. I feel like that is, I think a lot of, I came to jazz music, I think a little later, like maybe in the last 10 years, I've developed my love for jazz. And I think that's like the beauty of like some of the Sonny Sharrock that I like, these, there's maybe like a beautiful ballad on the record, but there's also these moments throughout the record that make me so uncomfortable, but it's like without that, then the ballad isn't as beautiful. The smooth moments,
Tension and release.
yeah,
It's like one of the fundamental principles of music. And when I teach people about music, that's the one thing I really try to express, is like there needs to be direction in what you're playing. And that direction, goes from the line that you're playing to the phrase that you're playing, to the solo that you're playing, to the song you're playing, to the set that you're playing. There needs to be tension and release. There needs to be direction. And how can you develop that? How can you, how can you develop it? But also, like, what are the different ways in which you can create it? Because there's so many different ways that you can do it.
yeah. How do you develop, or how did you learn that?
How did I learn tension release?
Yeah.
A lot of listening, a lot of, this is probably a deeper conversation, but like, I like to think about improvised music as a language, because that's what it is. It's a language that you speak through music, and you begin to see similarities from culture to culture, from instrument to instrument, of how people will play something. You know what I mean? So a lot of it has to do with, like, you can do inflection. So I play this game with these kids. They love. We'll play the game right now. You usually get like a whole bunch of kids, and we try to say the same sentence different ways.
Well, no, I don't want to spoil it, but I've got a whole line of kids outside. They're ready to come in.
Okay, we'll go back and forth. You ready? So the line is, I didn't eat that sandwich.
And then
You got to say it.
I just say the same thing.
But you got to say it with different inflection.
I didn't eat that sandwich.
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 I'm already
I
doing
didn't
such
eat-
a bad
I
yes
didn't
and.
eat that sandwich.
Yeah.
I didn't eat
There's
that.
so many different
I didn't eat
ways
that
to-
sandwich.
So you're just doing that. That's like
That I mean,
an
so
early
so-
exercise
So, that's
to-
that's the first thing of like, okay, that's the influential of the phrase, and then it's like how you say it. I didn't eat that sandwich.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah.
I didn't eat that. I didn't eat that sandwich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these different ways that you can say things in totally different ways. So like, yeah, there's 12 notes that exist, but the way that you play those 12 notes, the way you order those 12 notes, the history and the context of what has happened before it.
Yeah.
Like those are all the things that you need to bring into your improvising. And when you just go on stage and you're just like, here's the stuff I know how to do, it gets really boring really, really fast. And no one wants to listen to it.
Yeah. How do you feel like you really like cut your teeth as a player, like, and develop your skills to a point where you felt like maybe you could sit in with anybody at any time?
Well, I think there's two sides to it. One part is like getting really comfortable on the instrument. Just being able to be like, okay, I can do this thing on the instrument that I know I want to do. And the other half of it is really bridging what's happening in your mind to what's coming out of the instrument. And that's really, really hard. It's hard to be authentic sometimes. And authenticity is one of the most important things, but it's not the most important thing. The other thing is like the context. Like I would not speak to you the same way that I would speak to my mother or that I would speak to my friend that I've known for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, because I know I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to everyone who's listening right now. You have to speak in a certain a way. So speaking within that context, performing within that context is really, really important. As for like cutting your teeth, it's being around so many different people and navigating those kinds of relationships. There's a lot of people that like, maybe you're nervous to perform with them. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, I've been listening to this person since I was a little kid. How am I do I try to impress them? Do I try to just authentically be myself? Do I just kind of play it safe? And then it's like, maybe you're performing with someone that you hate. It's like, wow, this dude I wish wasn't here right now. Like, how am I going to play right now? And then maybe you're playing with your best friend and it's like, I'm going to play this inside joke that only he's going to get.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just playing music and surrounding yourselves in situations where you get to play music with a lot of different people and forcing yourself to play with a lot of different people. Play with people that, you know, you maybe don't even speak the same language. If you can find yourself in that opportunity, you'll find yourself playing a lot of really, really different stuff. I think that's maybe like the most valuable thing about music school. Not the stuff that you learn. You can learn any of that stuff online. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what I would say. Just playing as much as you can with as many different people.
Yeah, I think that's like the one thing, like one of the things rather, that I love about the jazz community is that it seems like you're constantly put in these situations, if you want to be, where you are playing with such a wide cast of people, maybe even at your regular gig or something, or if you have a residency, maybe you're playing with a different trio every single time, or it just seems like there's so much opportunity to...
There is a lot of opportunity. I think part of the problem is people like to play it safe. People like to play with the people they know that they can play with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's good because you know what you'll get, but you never know what can be. So like, you know what a jam session is, right?
Yeah.
So going to a jam session and just, getting put on stage with some people you don't know or you've never seen before in your life and like trying to play some music with them. It's rewarding, but it's also kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I've had really good session experiences, but I've also had some where I'm just like, oh, wow, I'm just really, I'm upset right now. You know what I mean?
Why would you say that you would be upset? Is it the amount of flexing that people tend to try to do and maybe not actually serving songs? Because that seems, I've gotten to go to jam sessions with musicians, specifically jazz musicians that I really respect, and go with them and kind of see through their lens where I watch maybe their frustration during moments. It's like, cool, you played every single note. That's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go to, I think Portland jam sessions are very different than any other jam session I've been anywhere else in the world. And that's for better and for worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The community, I will say, mostly is very, very welcoming. You can come, you can play, we'll get you up, you can do the thing. If you're like let's say you're at the late night session at Dizzy's, or you're at the session at Smalls. Maybe not Smalls. Smalls is kind of a different story. Yeah, there's like 9 horn players, and they are playing. So you're just gonna hear a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And are each one of those soloists serving what is happening musically? It's debatable. You know what I mean? But on the flip side of that, they are taking this music so seriously. That is the thing that they want to do. They don't want to do anything else but play this music as well as they can play it. And that sometimes is what is happening at the jam sessions here in Portland. It's just like, here's this thing that I play the saxophone once a week, and I'm going to come and I'm going to play the saxophone once a week. And so if you're someone who's
hobbyist,
and there's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist, but if you take someone who's a hobbyist and you're pairing them with someone who's like, this is what I do, I eat and sleep this music. This is all I do. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is just a fun little goofy thing I do, and I don't really understand it or try to take it seriously. There can be some tension there. Not to say that you have to be someone that takes this super duper seriously, but for some people it turns into a joke, and it's not a joke. You know what I mean? There's people who have died for this music, and will continue to die for this music, or wish that they could keep playing, and they can't keep playing anymore for one reason or another, or have, essentially sent their life into poverty and have died on the streets just to play this music.
Yeah, that seems like such a different thing to me than maybe showing up to a singer-songwriter open mic. Like, that seems like a lane where a hobbyist could jump, like someone that maybe like writes a song a month or plays every once in a while is like, hey, I'm going to go share some songs in front of some people, because you're not playing with other people.
But also these people, like, that's not to say that these people can't play with the people who are professional and taking this seriously their whole life, but they should acknowledge that this is not like a jokey fun thing. Like, this is the thing that they do. And there's people that learn the entire lives of these people and cherish them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, Freddie Hubbard, he was like a trumpet guy, cool, and Dizzy Gillespie had the big cheeks. It's like, oh, cool. Do you know anything else about funny trumpet? It's like, okay, where, bro?
Has there maybe been something attractive to you about, I don't know, there's something about jazz that's kind of seems to be this almost blue collar, like lower middle class, like realm of musicians in some way. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense.
Okay.
There's like the dichotomy of jazz. Like, you could think about the people that are in Portland. Yeah, it's kind of like some blue collar people. Like, we're getting together, we're playing music, and I'm gonna drink 13 beers. And then you could think of like jazz at Lincoln Center, which is like a multi-million-dollar organization that is presenting this music at like the highest level it could possibly be presented as.
Yeah.
And the reality is jazz is not dudes drinking 13 beers and playing Donna Lee, but jazz is not also, in a $2,000 suit playing Louis Armstrong tunes. Jazz is just expression. It is the purest form of expression.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess also just like thinking about, maybe somebody that does make a living playing a 5-night-a-week residency at a hotel or something. Like, it feels like there's something tangible there where you don't have to be like playing Lincoln Center to make a living.
And I think that's, we're getting to the sad part. We're getting to the sad part. Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, what you're talking about, playing 5 nights a week at a hotel, that doesn't exist here. It used to exist, but it doesn't exist anymore. So if you want to play jazz full time, you kind of do have to go live in New York. You kind of do have to go, where else that you could really play jazz full time? Maybe Kansas City, LA, not really. It's like, that's kind of it. And I will also say there are very few people I know that like will only play jazz, period. You know what I mean? Because what is considered jazz is very, very flexible. Jazz is rock and roll, is R&B, is hip hop, is all these things, you know what I mean? But if it's like, I'm straight up playing like standards, Great American Songbook tunes, yeah, you have very few opportunities to do that. That is changing, and in my opinion, for the better. I think if like Miles Davis walked through the door right now, which would be crazy.
That'd be pretty wild. We'd probably stop doing this.
I'd be like, he would feel weird about us playing songs that he played, or him or us playing his songs. You know what I mean? If Duke Ellington walked through the door, once again, I'm getting up and screaming. But he would feel weird that it's like, okay, I wrote 2,000 compositions. Probably by this time, I'd write 2,000 more.
Yeah.
You know, like jazz needs to be a evolving, constantly changing music. And if you're not allowing that to change and evolve, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I had an interesting situation with one of my students. They came in and they said, I want to learn this song by this artist named Loive. And I was like, oh, I haven't heard it before. So came in and showed me the song. The song is Misty, like a very, very classic jazz standard.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, so number one, yeah, let's learn the song. This is a classic jazz standard. But I need you to know that this is not by Loive. This has been performed about 1 million other times. Like, here's all the other versions and all that. And they were just completely uninterested. They're like,
by the other versions?
They didn't care.
And just didn't care about like the lineage there.
And that is the one thing that I think needs to stay, is understanding the history and the lineage, because it is just so deep and so important. And playing from that lineage is the only way to move forward authentically. I mean, you could just make weird random noise and call it jazz, but you know, and even sometimes things that people think is weird random noise, like Ornette Coleman, they're like, oh, it's just gobbledygook random nonsense. Like, absolutely not. That is rooted in so much jazz history. You know what I mean? You just need to know what to listen for.
Did you gravitate towards that history on your own, or did you just kind of, I don't know, were you forced to kind of learn it in some ways, or like, when did your passion for jazz music develop? Like, was it always an interest of you, like even in high school?
I had a band in high school called, this is very embarrassing, Half Past Nine.
Hey,
shout out to Half Past Nine band members. Let's get that band reunion going. But we would play songs out of the real book, and like I would, you know, I remember, what was it? It was probably April in Paris. I'm thinking there was a chord change that was weird in the real book. And I was listening to the song, and I thought it was different. I was like, okay, so they're playing it different in the song, but in the real book it says this. So like, which one is it? Like, what do I do? And I was like, well, let me listen to more versions. And then you start to put these things in order, and then you begin to understand, well, this person played this because they heard this kind of voicing because that was the sound of the time. So there is no right or wrong answer, you know, like you just kind of do what you want. But as for getting in the history or like learning the lineage, it begins to become like the most interesting thing possible. It's linguists, essentially. You know what I mean? It's like, well, why do the people talk the way people in Baltimore talk funny? Why do they talk about that? It's like, well, you can follow the lineage. You can see why they talk about that. It's like, oh, that's actually super, super interesting. You know, people on the West Coast remove the last syllable. Well, why do they do that? Oh, it's because of the way that this travels, you know, all that. And when it comes to music, it's like, yeah, people in this area begin to hear this kind of music, and they begin to, you know, use chords in that style and play with that style. So when they were taking some of these older songs, they would modernize it for this modern sound. I've always been interested in it, and I still am, maybe to kind of like a geeky level that's, you know, not very important, but to all the young musicians, yeah, it's maybe one of the more important things that you should be doing.
Like, you love that YouTube exists so that you can, you know, just bring up this random Freddie Hubbard.
Yeah, we got premium
show.
We got premium. We're putting up all the
1971.
Look at Freddie in the Gucci suit playing his butt off.
Noah showed me this very cool video of Freddie Hubbard because I was listening to some Freddie Hubbard when he walked in. I was like, you got to see this. It's pretty cool.
Okay, are you ready for my question?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the audience, I came in and said I have a question for Dan. Tuna Boy.
This is already a great start to your question, just to let you know.
I can't have tuna. I'm allergic to fish.
Oof.
As someone who can't have fish, describe the appeal of a tuna sandwich.
Tuna sandwich. The appeal. It's jazz, no? It can be whatever you want it to be.
Wait, no, it's always tuna, though.
No, it's that. Okay. I have my love for tuna sandwiches goes back to me being a kid. It was just I feel like tuna is this thing where it's a love it or hate it sandwich.
Okay.
It's very polarizing, I have learned. Okay. But I grew up with it. My family, it's part of my family. You know, I grew up eating tuna sandwiches, and I feel like if you grow up eating it, you know, it's in the regular rotation. But if you don't, it's not, and it feels like this weird thing. So I have one of my favorite things I've ever witnessed is this was, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, but my grandma was having some people over for lunch, and she just made tuna sandwiches for everybody, for adults and kids.
Everyone gets a tuna sandwich.
But that is such a bold move to assume that everybody would like a tuna sandwich, because it's not I feel like you could give everybody a turkey sandwich.
It'd be cool.
If you're not vegan, you know, or vegetarian.
Yeah, and they'd be like, oh, it's a standard
sandwich. But it's it's a standard sandwich. Even if you don't love turkey, it's not something that you're going to be grossed out by, kind of thing. But a tuna, if you gave certain people a tuna sandwich, some people are just going to be like, no, I don't like eat tuna. That. But what is the appeal? It's the saltiness, you know,
the saltiness
of the tuna, but it's the versatility of the tuna. It's I could make so many variations of the tuna with the mixture in what I feel like you can add so many different condiments to tuna. So it's you want a spicy, a bootleg spicy tuna, put sriracha in with the mayo. You want to make it Mediterranean, you know, you throw some, man, I'm spacing.
Capers?
No, I mean, capers are great. And yes, there's just so many things you can add and try.
I don't think of tuna
with a
as
tuna
being versatile. This is interesting.
It's extremely versatile. And I like trying those different things of what kind of sauce can I put in here? Almost any hot sauce is incredible.
It's gonna work,
you know.
For the deep tuna heads,
yeah.
Shout out to all the deep tuna heads who are listening. What is the most experimental yet delicious tuna sandwich you think you could do?
The most experimental tuna sandwich. I'm trying to think of one that's maybe kind of blown my mind, or just you know, I feel like it is very similar to music, or you know, when you just stumble upon that record that just makes you think about music differently. Mm-hmm. It's when I went to Baker's Mark to get their tuna for the first time. One of my favorite sandwich shops in the city. They make their tuna with beets. And I never had a tuna sandwich with beets, and it was it's a great sandwich, and it's just so different.
This is terrible news.
It changes the profile of the sandwich.
This is terrible news.
You hate beets.
No,
you're allergic to beets too.
My partner loves tuna and loves beets.
Oh,
so
perfect.
The second she's gonna hear this, I know there's gonna be beet tuna sandwiches all throughout the house now.
So that's one of those things that if I'm making a tuna at home now, I'm oh, what else can we do to this thing?
Put
you
some
know,
beets in it.
Or Devil's Dill does the roasted olives.
They have a tuna sandwich with olives?
It's beautiful.
That's probably the one I haven't had.
Yeah, it's great.
Shout out to Devil's Dill. Shout out to No Fun. Shout out to Nick. Hot take: one of my favorite venues to play in Portland.
Is No Fun. I know you and Gamble play there a lot.
Shout out to Mike Gamble. I love No Fun. If you haven't been, it's a very, very small room. Maybe 40 or 50 people. It's super, super small.
Yeah.
But they let you do whatever you want there. There couldn't be better food. You get Devil's Dill.
Yeah.
And the drinks are
I
cheap.
love those sandwiches, dude. Those sandwiches have been so clutch at like 1 a.m. or something like that.
Did you ever
know?
get remember they used to do bike delivery?
I never had bike delivery.
They used to
Okay.
do bike delivery, and they used to be up. Remember they used to be open super
Oh yeah, I
late?
remember like there was a music venue in the basement of Growler's Tap Room for
Oh,
a
yeah.
while on Hawthorne, and I was booking that room, and we would order sandwiches there like after the show and have them delivered because it would be like, oh, what else is open right now?
Devil's Dill.
Devil's Dill.
Yeah,
they're open until 3.
Hot Cake House, Devil's Dill, Roxy.
Yeah.
Those are the moves.
Yeah, but I think it's funny because it's, I think food and music are very similar in this way where, sometimes you experiment and it doesn't go the right way,
No,
but
it
that is
doesn't.
important to find out what does and doesn't work for certain situations. And that there's also been a lot of misses in my tuna sandwich journey here of like, sometimes you don't leave enough space for the ingredients that are on there to breathe, and you just
You're not
soak
celebrating
it,
the tuna.
You just soak it in so many condiments or so many toppings. It's like I can't taste anything except this sweet and sour mustard that you put on this sandwich. Like I don't even know this is tuna.
Damn.
You know?
Damn. So I can get shots for 2 years. If I went and got a shot for 2 years, I can have tuna. Do you think?
Is it worth it?
Is it worth it? What do you think?
I mean, to me, it's 100% worth
You
it.
think I should go get the shots?
It would be incredible if you did, and then you didn't like.
And it turns out I hated it.
Yeah.
I have so many allergies, so it would solve a lot of my allergies. So it's not just tuna; it's all fish.
Okay.
So I would get
Right.
to eat all fish.
So you've never like had sushi?
I go to a sushi place, but I can only get like 2 things. I have to get like shrimp tempura. Oh, so I can have shellfish. So I get like shrimp tempura.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Interesting.
But it's like I can't have carrots and peas and avocado and melon.
We got to
and
get Noah these shots.
30 years, none of this food. I have what's called eosinophilic esophagitis, which means that my esophagus gets like irritated and will like part of it will rupture and blood will go into my stomach.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would also, that being a focal point of your instrumentation.
Yeah, funny enough, it's the swallow tube, not the breathing tube. So like
Okay.
only if it's like really, really inflamed. Actually, the way I found out, great music school story. I am practicing super, super late, and I go to the East Side Deli.
Hey.
The East Side Deli downtown by PSU. They used to be open late. So I think it was like maybe midnight, and I go and I get a hot dog and I eat it in the park blocks, and I start choking. And I'm able to vomit and get it out. And then I'm like, all right, I'll just go back to practicing. And I'm practicing, and I realize I can't swallow my own saliva. Like nothing is going down. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like maybe it'll go away. And then I go to bed, and I was like, I'm getting really dehydrated, and I still can't swallow my own saliva. So yeah, I ended up going to the hospital. Oh man, I'll never forget this. We go in. These late night OHSU workers, they're grumpy. They don't want to deal with you. So they put my name down, Noah Simpson, and then in brackets they put down Hot Dog Boy because they think that a hot dog is lodged in my esophagus.
That's what they assumed was happening?
They're like, yeah, the hot dog's stuck in there, so we're going to give you this drug until it goes out. Have you ever had nitro?
No.
It dilates everything. So like, your pupils get dilated, your ears pop, but also your esophagus opens. So I do 4 rounds of that, and it's giving me a migraine. It's still not working. They're like, all right, we're giving you an endoscopy. So they, put me under, and they shove a whole tube down my throat. And they're like, oh yeah, your esophagus was seized. You have all the scar tissue in here. You got to stay, and we're going to give you surgery. We're going to remove it all out. So that's how I found out I had it.
That's wild.
Yeah, man.
And now you're forever hot dog boy over at OHSU.
I can
huh?
never go back. Hot dog boy.
That's in your file.
Now, listen, I don't want to. It's a music podcast, but we got to talk about the food. Big hot dog fan over here.
Oh,
Big hot dog fan.
absolutely.
Frank's a lot. Burnside.
Frank's a lot.
Oh my God, Frank's a lot. So good. But also, if you're able to go to the Pickles game, you can get like a solid dog.
I had one of those dogs on Sunday.
You went Sunday?
Yeah. It was the championship.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
How'd we do?
Well, it was 16-5 Pickles in the eighth inning when my family left because it was bound to be about a 4.5 hour game because there were so many runs scored. It was insane.
Wow.
But I would say it's safe to say that they won. There was only, they didn't have to make it very far.
They didn't have to make it very far.
There's this place off of, it's about 122nd in Division, this little butcher there. Some of the greatest hot dogs I've ever had come
real?
from that butcher. They're these Chicago style all beef dogs, and they are just so juicy. I've never had a hot dog with that much like natural flavor.
And it's delicious. You don't have to do much to it.
No. What's your move though on a hot dog? Like
Chicago style all the way. Usually Chicago style.
Okay.
My mom's from Chicago, so every time I would go, I would get a Chicago dog. Do you know what a Sonoran dog is?
No. Something you learned about in Cave Creek.
Of course. In the Sonoran Desert, of course.
Yep.
Grilled hot dog bun, mayonnaise,
Okay.
hot dog, wrapped in bacon,
Oh, okay.
jalapenos.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Oh man.
Those are the hot dogs that I kind of grew up with. But yeah, a good Chicago dog. Every time I would go to Chicago, it's been a few years, but I remember I was there and I played at this place, the Green Mill. I don't know if it's a very famous jazz venue.
Okay.
It's been around for forever. But yeah, like, gotta go get the hot dog like every single night. Man,
I'm gonna bring you some of those hot dogs from that butcher.
just bring me some, man.
I will.
I'll go absolutely crazy.
They're so good.
Man.
I don't even know how to get this thing back on track. We could just talk about. That's the beauty of when you have your own podcast. We don't have to.
We don't
just
gotta talk about
music.
We could talk about.
Are there some moments that you can think about, that kind of really set you on that path as far as you making that decision or feeling like it was maybe like a tangible thing for you to pursue music as a life path and
Yeah.
get into it the way that you have, and maybe some things that have like boosted your confidence in making those decisions or kind of propelled you?
I think part of the problem is, like, the things that help really are like early on is like validation.
Yeah.
Being validated by someone you respect. Hey, you sound pretty good. Hey, you're doing really good. But that validation circle, it's so brutal, man. Because, and especially if you get some really early on validation, you'll for real burn out. You know what I mean? I got some, very nice validation. I remember eighth grade. I played the Godfather theme at an assembly.
I'm sure that hit for the parents.
It hit for the kids.
Oh.
I don't know how, but like the kids are like, yeah, Godfather theme, dope. You know what I mean? Which is crazy because I don't think any of these kids had seen maybe two of them had seen the God, but they're like, hey, that's not pretty good. You know what I mean? I got a scholarship when I was going to community college from George Benson.
Okay.
And he gave me some really, really big support early on that was like kind of incredible. And moving up here and getting to play with some people that I listened to ever since I was a kid, and then going to New York, playing with some people, it does feel nice. It feels good, but if you can't validate yourself, you're not going to make it. You know what I mean? You need to set a barometer for yourself and then accomplish that goal, and then that is like true fulfillment. So I remember early on, I was like, I don't know how do I pay for things? How do I pay rent? How do I buy food? How do I do X, Y, and Z? I remember George Benson gave me some really good advice. He said, you need to pick your three things. You need to pick your three things that you need. And as long as you have your three things, nothing else matters. So I remember my three were, I wanted to play music. Like, I have to make my money by playing or teaching music. I wanted to sleep in a place where I didn't have to share it with other people, Like, I didn't want to share a bedroom or share a bed. Like, I wanted to have my own space. And I wanted to be able to go out and eat something if I wanted to. Not anything fancy, but I could go get a hot dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was really, really helpful early on when I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't know what to do or where to go. That really gave me some really good direction. When I did 2 years at PSU and I ended up dropping out because I didn't feel like I was playing music. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel like I was stable. So I dropped out of PSU. I remember I played with this band, Pig War, which essentially they were weekend warriors. They would just go out on the road on Thursday night, Friday, and then we'd come back Sunday night, Sunday morning, and we would just play.
Who played in that band? You remember names?
Teddy Presper.
Teddy Presper. That's who. That is why I know Pig War. Teddy did this podcast a long time ago. Early on, I went to Teddy's house.
I have a funny Teddy story. This is a little embarrassing. We're in Bend, and we're crashing at someone's house, and this person says, "Hey, who wants to take a homemade dab?" And I'm like, me, I want to take a homemade.
Where all good stories start.
And so I take this homemade dab, and I hit the ground. I pass out, and I wake up, and it's that kind of high where you can't understand time. Like, you don't know how much time has passed between here.
Yeah.
And so I remember I go over, I'm super confused, and Teddy can tell I'm kind of like not cool. And so Teddy like takes me over to this couch and is like, gives me a pillow and blanket. He's like, just lay down, just sleep here. And so I remember I did that. And I wake up, and my head hurts. I'm feeling kind of weird. I'm stretching, and then right here in the middle of my chest, I feel something. I'm like, what's this on my chest? And it's a patch, maybe about this big, on the middle of my chest. And I'm like, I'm picking at it. And this lady's like, don't pick at that. You need to leave that on. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, it's a CBD patch. Like, we just wanted to include you in what was going on. And I was like, I don't want to do, like, why are you putting patches on my chest while I'm sleeping? She's like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I don't want to. It's like, no, there's something wrong with you should go look in the mirror. And so I go and I look in the mirror. Somehow I had ruptured bunch of blood vessels in my eyes.
Oh, Jesus.
So my eyes are deep blood red. You know what I mean? And
you're still probably a little bit blasted.
And I'm still a little blasted. And I tell Teddy I was having a rough time. And at the time I was pretty young, and I think Teddy was looking out for me, and he was kind of telling me, hey, take a little easy on Noah. He's kind of having a rough one.
Yeah.
So shout out to Teddy.
That's amazing. I knew that name sounded familiar, though, that Pig War band.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, I started doing that, and then I played in this band Dirty Revival for a while.
Okay.
That was a lot of fun. And then, I started to try to make my own music, which was hard. I remember I got asked to play at the 1905 for when they first opened, and the offer was $50 and a large pizza. And at the time, I was living with all these musicians, and I was like, guys, should we just get free pizza? We get a whole free pizza. We can just eat pizza. And we, get some money. They're just like, oh, sure. So I remember we would go play in the corner before they really even had a stage, and that place took off and did really, really well. And yeah.
Do you remember the first time maybe you saw somebody playing horns through pedals and what that maybe did for your brain as a musician?
Yeah. Roy Hargrove.
Okay.
That was the first person I ever saw. That was kind of life-changing. Yeah, it's hard to think about Roy, honestly. I only got to meet him once, but I can't really think of someone that has had like that big of an impact on my life and not really even be that direct. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just played with so much swagger and so much attitude, and you could hear the history in his playing, and yet he was doing all these things that were so modern. You know the band RH Factor?
I don't.
I would highly recommend you check out RH Factor.
Okay.
It is Roy Hargrove's like R&B hip hop project.
Okay.
He's got like Common on it. He's got all these other cats. I think D'Angelo's on a track. I mean,
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. But like all the horn playing on it, I remember I heard all these effects and all these pedals, and I was like, whoa, like that's something I want to try to get into. And, it really wasn't until last year that I was able to really dive into it. It's an investment to get the pedals, to get how you get that to work, that was another problem, is I didn't really even know how to put the horn through the pedals. You can have a mic and then you put it through like a transistor, but it sounds really funny. It's really, really weird. But this really great trumpet player, Darren Barrett, shout out to Darren Barrett, he helped design this pickup that goes on the bottom of a mouthpiece that goes directly into the pedals.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where I started to get into the pedal stuff. And as for like sound design, there was another really great trumpet player, John Hassel. He passed away a few years ago. And that's mainly what he did, is he would just kind of go have through all these effects things. But yeah, Roy was kind of the first person I heard.
That's got to be like having a whole new instrument.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, kind of like circling back to the tune, you can't just put a bunch of effects on your horn and expect it to sound good.
Yeah, it's gonna just all wash it out at a certain point. Or
so, you know, it's been kind of fun to like be like, okay, you know, I'm gonna go do this gig. Is there even an opportunity for me to bring this sound? You know what I mean? I just did a run 2 months ago, maybe. It was 4 nights at the Black Cat in SF, and then I taught at the Stanford Jazz Workshop for a while. And I knew I was performing at the workshop, and I knew, obviously I'm playing during the run, and I wanted to bring pedals, but I was like, this is kind of more straight ahead jazz. Like, how could I bring any of that if I wanted to? So I ended up just bringing this really cool delay pedal and only use it in these certain spots. And I felt like I really, really worked out in that sense. But then other bands like Gamsim, the duo I have with Mike Gamble, I mean, it's all about what kind of effective sound can you bring and what kind of atmosphere can you create with these pedals. And then I just recorded a trio record with Mike and this drummer, Dan Rossi, our band Damino.
Yeah.
That is playing at the Montavilla Jazz Festival.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just recorded vinyl. And a lot of that has like super affected sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you're credited on that record on Bandcamp as trumpet and effects.
Trumpet and effects. Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's like, it is like half the instruments. Like, okay, I'm playing trumpet, and then like I'm playing an affected sound that is like completely separate from what the trumpet is.
Yeah. When you're playing something really experimental or far out, what do you feel like maybe tethers you to a song or helps you know where things are at? I'm always very blown away by jazz, is like watching sets and just, you know, knowing that within these moments things are so far out, and I'm just like, how does anybody ever find the place to, you know, bring it back somewhere?
I remember a few years ago, I played with this really great drummer, Ralph Peterson. Rest in peace. I remember we were playing these really, really hard songs, and it was that, like, it's this very intricate, involved music, and I'm trying my best, but I'm getting a little lost.
Yeah.
And Ralph screams at me on stage. He says, breathe, breathe. And I'm like, all right, just stop. Took a breath. And it came right back in, and it was working. And then the next tune, he said, you got to open your eyes. He's like, you're not somewhere else. You're here. Open your eyes. And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Once again, that super brutal honesty, but like, not trying to be mean, just like, hey, like, you got to open your eyes. You have to breathe. And the second I did those two things, took some breaths and opened my eyes, things just locked. And what's that Kamala Harris quote? You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist within the time of your own reality, something like that. I was like, there's actually some shit to that for real. Like, like, we're not just playing music and it's like we're going off into space, ethereal space. Like, no, we're here and now. Like, we are here where we're doing that. And part of it is like, look at the people that you're playing. Look at what they're doing. Don't just listen to what they're doing. Look at what they're doing. Look them in the eyes. Look at their hands. Look at what they're doing. Like, be grounded within this moment and face them. I feel like, you know, there's the traditional like band setup where it's like everyone's just kind of facing forward at the audience. But I was always fascinated when I would watch Miles Davis turn around and like he's playing right at the drummers, looking at the drummers, playing at the, how's he doing that, man? That's crazy. You know what I mean? He's engaging directly with that person. So a lot of the times when we set up, we'll try to do like a semicircle or like we'll just straight up face each other. You know what I mean? And that really makes for better music in my opinion.
Yeah. Just something about watching each other. And is there also I don't know, something to wanting to like lose yourself and close your eyes and really feel the thing as well? Like, is there a purpose to both, or like since that moment, are you eyes wide open?
You know, there is something to getting lost and to going somewhere. We did it a minute ago. We started talking about tuna and hot dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
And that felt natural. It's like we're talking about, okay, now we're talking about hot dogs. Then it's like, okay, now we got to find our way back into the music conversation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of what happens is when you get lost into it, is you just go off on this tangent. You kind of go somewhere. And if someone goes with you, that's even better. That's even better. It's like, here we go. We're talking about this now. But like, sometimes when you're doing that by yourself, it doesn't make for good music. It's the same thing as when you go to the jam session and you hear someone, playing all these notes, I'm like, next minute, playing super high, super loud, super fast. It's like, where are you going? We're right here. You're just running off ahead of us. You know what I mean? If people are doing it together, it can get you to go to some really, really cool places. But I kind of feel that a lot of mindfulness gets lost in that process. And mindfulness is something that it's kind of lost in the general musicianship community right now. Is like, what is the context of where you're playing this music? Yeah, okay, dude, you're playing a brunch set for people who are trying to have brunch with their family. It's not the time for you to shred. You don't need to shred right now. You know what I mean? Okay, hey, you're in New York, you're at the Jazz Standard right now, and it's time for you to cut. These people are here to see you. Now is the time for you to shred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The mindfulness needs to kind of exist. And it's hard to be mindful when you're shutting yourself in. When you're looking within too deeply, or if you're overthinking, it goes out.
Yeah.
I didn't come here being like, okay, if Dan says this, then I say this. But if Dan says this, then I say this. It's just like we're sitting down, my eyes are wide open, I'm looking at you, you know what I mean? If I was like, okay,
just remember what you were going to say.
Okay, just remember your lines now. You know what I mean? Eyes wide open, ears wide open. Look at the person, and talk to them.
Yeah. Speaking of the listening, what do you feel like it is? Has it been more challenging developing your playing skills or your listening skills?
I think it's honestly been my playing skills. I think everyone says that they're not very good at, I'm not that good. I'm not that good. I feel like I had a really great fundamental understanding of the trumpet. Besides the hand stuff, I had a really great good fundamental understanding, but like taking it and being able to do what I want with it was really, really hard. I would hear all these things in my head.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to do any of it. When I was, in high school and in college, there's this thing that jazz musicians will do. There's this app called iRealB.
Okay.
And basically what it is it'll play backing tracks, the jazz standards. We would put it on in the car and we would scat trade choruses. Like the most dorky music thing in the world. Or, we would put on a song on a record we already know and we would sing the solos. You know what I mean? And I was always good at that. I was like, I know all this stuff. I can sing it. I just like, why don't I play like that? There was some kind of mental separation there. And there still kind of is. If I'm not being mindful, it still is there. But it's always been hard to develop. Just like the trumpet is so hard. It's just a difficult instrument. Louis Armstrong said, if I don't practice for 1 day, I know it. If I don't practice for 2, my bandmates know it. And if I don't practice for 3, the papers know it. Like you just have to be so active in the way that you engage with this instrument. So, definitely developing, like, just playing.
Yeah. What do you think makes the trumpet specifically so difficult?
It is both so natural and so unnatural to play the trumpet. It's, it's an instrument of war. It's the herald, just like, here we come. Here's this noise of this thing coming. You know what I mean? So, naturally, I think it was this abrasive thing that turned into this kind of heralding sound, into this sort of beautiful thing. And I think to take the trumpet and to make it flexible is very, very hard. The muscles you need to play the trumpet, these 2 muscles here on the side of your mouth, you mainly use them when you smile and when you frown. It's the only times you really use them. And then your diaphragm is your other really, really important muscle. Your diaphragm's super weird. It's this weird shaped muscle. It's the only muscle in your body that can work automatically and that you can control. So the reason why you don't have to think about breathing, and the reason why you can hold your breath, essentially. You control it, and then it'll also just work automatically if you're not thinking about it. And so having those things work in tandem, and then on top of that, thinking about it, is every other system in place? Okay, how are my lips placed, right? Are my lips kind of in the right position for the max amount of flexibility? Okay, am I getting the proper amount of vibration right here? Okay, am I playing off to the side? Am I getting my maximum airflow? Okay, how are my fingers placed? You know, essentially talking about the thing with my hand, like I had to think about taking my hand and opening it up as wide as I can and then placing it on the horn and then pressing down with my fingers as hard as I could. You know what I mean? Wow, how many things is that? Like thinking about all of that, and then on top of that, play the music.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so incredibly hard. Like when you pass people the trumpet, it's hard to get a note out. Sometimes I can't even make a sound on this thing. Then once you get a sound out, it's like, okay, remember there's only 3 valves. So know all the combinations for every single note, and then know how to play them in order. Know all your scales, know all your arpeggios. Now learn all this music. Now put it all together. Now do it in real time.
Do you think because the trumpet is so difficult and you've obviously devoted your life in a lot of ways to playing it, and you know, you're someone that can get around on it very well where you're at now, but is that something that's been helpful to you, like in life in general, to like develop a discipline for this thing and know that putting the time and the effort into it has gotten you where you're at now with the instrument? Do you feel like that overflows into different facets of your life?
I mean, once again, Cave Creek, very lonely place. There's not a lot of people around.
Yeah.
I was a super, super lonely kid, if I'm being honest. Like, just really had trouble engaging, talking, interacting with people. And it took me a long time to develop that skill. But music was one of these things where I was like, okay, like I'm heard, actually. I'm heard when I do this thing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, how can I communicate effectively? How can I play in a way where people understand what is going on? If I'm playing a song right now, like, how can I communicate that I feel X or Y?
Yeah.
And how can I play in a way so my bandmates know exactly what I'm doing? You know what I mean? It's maybe the most rewarding thing I've had with my life. Regardless of whatever has happened and what will happen with my life, I know that I'll always have music. And hopefully I'll have the trumpet. The trumpet is just so expressive. Think about Miles, you know. He was able to play in some really exciting and engaging ways, but also just like in the most soft-spoken, emotional way. It makes you want to cry, man.
Yeah.
It's just like you can tell he's depressed sometimes when you hear some of these songs. You're just like, oh my God, you know. And to be able to play like that is, it's hard to say, you know, hey man, how are you? I'm feeling terrible. I hate my life right now. But like, you know, if you play that, people are like, hey, yo, you good?
Yeah.
You know,
you feel like it's almost a thing where you can express better through the music than you can with words sometimes.
And that's what happens is like, there have been times where like, you know, how are you? Oh, I'm good, I'm good. And then, you know, you play something, you know, like, oh, let's play a ballad. I remember there's a really great jazz standard called I Fall in Love Too Easily. And I think I was just depressed about dating. And someone called it. And I was like, yeah, we'll play it. And I played it. And someone was like, hey, man, you good? And I was like, what? It's like, played that like a little too well. And I was like, oh, man, you know what I mean? But yeah, once you know the history, it's like, yeah, like I know who wrote the song. I know the lyrics to the song. And I know how to play the song. It's like, oh, like, yeah, this is starting to come across a certain type of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How do you feel like you push boundaries with music?
Make yourself uncomfortable. Make yourself super, super uncomfortable. Put yourself in the most uncomfortable situation you think you could possibly put yourself in. And I think those things change for sometimes. This sounds kind of funny, but like drinking and playing music, like, okay, drink a beer and then play this tune. Okay, now drink another beer. I'm not going to condone, you know, really hard alcohol consumption, but like that was one of the early things where I was like, okay, like how good can I play after like 5 beers? You know, there begins to be that. And then it, you know, on a more practical sense, it's like, okay, this is not the setup I usually like playing on. Here's like a different trumpet and here's a different mouthpiece. How can I effectively play on some of that?
Yeah.
And then when things happen where, you know, your third valve gets locked up or something doesn't work, it's like, can I still keep playing this tune? Can I keep moving past this gig? Or like, you can't hear X, Y, or Z, or how can I hold it together? That stuff happens all the time, you know. You're playing and then for some reason, you know, the drummer loses both of his sticks and the time goes out the window. If you can keep playing and it feels like the time still exists, it's like, oh man, you know, that's all good. But making yourself uncomfortable, you know, go to a community that you're not actively in and try to engage with that community in like a really meaningful way. Try to learn something that is really, really difficult, and you're not just going to pick up and be really good at. I mean, for me, it was effects. It was like, I don't know how to navigate. And still sometimes I'm like, you know, I don't know how to use these effects.
Still figuring it out.
I'm still figuring it out sometimes. You know what I mean? That's been like a really, really engaging journey.
But that gives you the opportunity to be a different kind of player and serve music in a lot of different ways when you do learn how to, you know, you develop that skill where it is serving the songs, or you can do things that you wouldn't have been able to do.
Or even, you know, circling back to like jam sessions, like people sometimes will be like, oh, there's some younger people here, there's some high, you know, I don't really want to play with them. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this song the best I can be. You know what I mean? I'm with some people who maybe aren't the best at their instruments yet. And we're going to try to make the best music we could possibly make together. You know what I mean? That's another like really, really valuable skill.
What does composing look like to you when you are writing music? Is that all happening on the trumpet, or do you pick up other instruments ever to help as writing tools?
I play some piano. So like sometimes I'll take a piano thing and I'll take, you know, like, oh, I like this chord. Okay, well, if I can move that and go over here. Or I forget who said it right now. It might have been Miles. Whoever said it said, good artists copy, great ones steal. So like you hear something where you're like, oh my God, like that is beautiful. That's really great. Take it.
Yeah.
Now, not to be clear, don't take the whole thing, but take the thing that you really like and make that good. So today, in the car, I was listening to "If Only You Knew," Patti LaBelle. There's that change. You know, the beginning of the tune, it's in E, I think. You know what I mean? And then it goes to C sharp major, and there's like a transition between the verse and the chorus where I'm like, it's almost like jar. I remember I wrote that down. I was like, like something will have that kind of change in there. You know what I mean? That is like inspired directly from that. I also have been kind of working on my like composing side. So like, I have like a cloud series that I do where like I struggle with composition. Like you'll try to write something. I don't know what to do. I will walk outside and I'll find a cloud and I'll take a picture of that cloud and I'll come back inside and I'll decide what I want to use. So whether that's a sampler, whether that's a keyboard, whether that's just my horn, and I'll make a beat in an hour and I can only look at that cloud.
Yeah, so you're just setting up these creative parameters for yourself.
Set up the creative parameters and then do it. And then, yeah, I'll do the same thing if I'm like playing a tune. I used to study with this great saxophone player, Chris Cheek, and he would make us play something, take the instrument away, sing it back, and then keep doing that over and over and over again. And then we would do it and only sing back in our head. And then you would get this really cool thing. I would go, ba-doo-dee, be-ba-doo-bup, boop-doo-bip, be-da-boop, be-ba-doo-bup, doo-bip, dip, dip, boop, ba-doo-ba-doo-bip. You know what I mean? You start to get like this rhythm and this like very musicality in there, and you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, especially with composing, parameters are probably like the most helpful thing. But I also do like commission work, and like that is mainly just like, can you make it sound like this?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, all right, you know.
Yeah. When you're playing a live set, do you feel like you get the same joy or experience out of playing music that you have contributed to composition wise as you do when you're just sitting in with anybody?
I mean, sitting in with someone is so much fun. I'll sit in with Great Band, Greater Kind.
Yeah.
That maybe is where you first saw me at. You know what I mean?
You know, the first gig I think I saw you play actually was Cathedral Park Jazz Festival with Corgi and bass as Cyrus.
Oh, when we did the record.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, yeah.
Which was actually like there was man, you guys suffered through some brutal technical difficulties during that, but it actually ended up still being like a really great set. So I think actually that was my first time getting to see you play live.
Yeah.
But Greater Kind, killer band. There's a new record I think dropping very soon.
Man, super funny. I am on that record. I'm not playing trumpet.
You just like playing sampler? What are you playing?
Okay, so they were originally recorded the record and then realized that they wanted to go a different direction with it. They wanted it to be a little bit more produced.
Okay.
So they redid all these songs. So I played trumpet on some of the songs, and they were like, "We're just gonna do it this way," and I'm not on it. But they kept this one thing. When you're in the studio, you're hanging out all day, you're goofing off.
Yeah.
And we had this stupid idea of like, what if someone wanted to hire Greater Kind with like the worst gig offer in the world? So I ended up leaving a voicemail on Charlie's phone.
That's amazing.
And with this like super terrible gig offer, and he put it at the end of the track, and it's on the vinyl.
Featuring Noah Simpson.
Exactly. I am featured as a voicemail. It's the last track on the record. The last thing is this thing. But circling back, like sitting in, like if I'm sitting in with those guys, like it's so rewarding. I love each and every one of them with my whole entire heart. They're more like my brothers than like my bandmates. You know what I mean? So like going and doing that feels really, really good. But taking something that you've written and having people take it seriously is, I mean, that's like someone saying, I love you. Like, hey, I wrote this song means this. And they mean it and they take it seriously and they try to make it sound like that thing. Like one of my songs is called Moon Water. I wrote it for my lady because she puts glasses of water out on a full moon to make moon water. And I was like, what is this? He was like, it's purified by the full moon. And I put it in our cat's drinking bowl so she can have purified. I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I remember she did
mystical cats.
Yeah, man. we got a mystical cat. So I just remembered, I was like, that's so weird. And then I just sat down and I wrote a song, and then all those people know my partner and they're like, oh yeah, like we're gonna do like that. I have another song for two men that were murdered in December of 2019. They were both murdered by the police. They were both inside their car. They were both shot and killed inside their car. And I remember that really deeply hurt me in a way. Yeah, in just in a really personal way.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this song for two of them, for the both of them. It was for Cameron Lamb and Malik Williams. And I shared that song with Donald Branch, another brother I love dearly. And I remember he just kept texting me like, man, I can't stop thinking about this song. I can't stop thinking about this song. To this day, when I play in his band, he's like, can we please play this song? Like, I just can't stop thinking about it. And every time we play it, he'll stop the band and he'll talk about the story behind it. And, that feels so, so deeply personal. So everyone knows what this song is about and what we're talking about these two people.
Yeah, and like what a beautiful thing when you can have that big of an impact on another musician that you respect their playing, and you're just like, oh, I created something that impacted somebody the way the great records before me has impacted me.
Yeah, we're talking about songs where that are very, very serious. It's also like the flip side. You can make a song that is like a little silly. I have a song called Thing Thangin', and it's about someone's behind, you know what I mean, just like seeing a large behind, and someone's like, oh yeah, I feel that, like I know how to play it like that, you know what I mean. Another song called Failing Street in North Portland, and just hanging out and doing stuff like that. Like people know how to engage with that, so it doesn't have to be on like this really deep emotional level. It can just be understood.
Yeah. I mean, shit, the goofiest thing I've done with my life is make tuna sandwich videos, and that seems to be the most impactful
That's the
thing
goofiest?
that I have done.
That's pretty good if that's the goofiest.
I mean, I've done some other goofy things, but I just feel like that is the example of me leaning into the dumb and goofy side of me, and it connecting with people.
What you're saying
in
is
a way.
dumb and goofy is authentic.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
love tuna sandwiches.
Well, but I also love being dumb and goofy. Like,
That's
so
what I'm
it is that authenticity, but it's just kind of going back to what you're saying is like, I think that the impact can happen whether it's this real serious conversation or that I'm having on the mics in here maybe, but also, an incredibly goofy thing.
Yeah. And it needs to be goofy. If everything is too serious, I know some musicians where like all the songs are just like super dark and emotional. It's like, brother, people are spending $20-$25 to see you. They got to have some fun. You know what I mean? And it's hard when it's just super doom and gloom the whole time. Like there has to be like a fun element to whatever you do. You know what I mean?
Full range of emotions kind of is, I think.
And if
what
you're
really
only
hits.
playing that stuff, I'm probably worried about you. You know what I mean? What is, that band Baths?
Yeah.
Well, he had a record like Heat Death or something like that. Something Death. Well, it was like cerulean, obsidian, death.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is happening? Is he okay? You know what I mean? I was kind of worried about him. Just like what's the trend? What's the trend here? But also
That's
shout out to Baths.
amazing.
I'm a big Baths fan. Talk about stuff that is abrasive.
Yeah.
But is also super super brutal. That record Obsidian is maybe top 10 favorite records for me of all time.
Yeah. You always find yourself listening to a pretty wide range of music?
I want to say yes, but I think the answer is we fall into trends that we like and don't like.
But like as a jazz player, are you listening to jazz all the time?
No. I mean, I do it when, I find something that's really, really interesting. It's like that nerdy space, you know what I mean? So currently, like, really diving back into the Cannonball Adderley Quintet and, like, really diving into Nat Adderley's playing. Being like, I think I kind of know Nat Adderley, but, like, let me dive in and get into Nat Adderley. You know
Something educational there.
I'm currently a big Brat fan. Brat is great. But, yeah, other kind of newer stuff, it's kind of all over the place. I'm a big hip hop head, so like always will dive back. State versus Roderick Davis, diving back into that record, forgot how good that Gucci Mane record is. It's absolutely incredible. Also some music from Zimbabwe, Thomas Mafuno. Just always find that stuff super super interesting. Yeah. And then stuff that your homies make. You always just want to be like, what's going on? What's interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I've discovered that importance, doing this podcast kind of is like, there's something special about, going to see your friends play or seeing people that you have relationships with and listening to their music. There's a deeper level of connection there.
Super, super deep. And you can't listen to everything. And that's not even to say that you should be listening to everything. You know what I mean? I like to kind of know what's happening. Yeah. But sometimes I feel like it's better to have like a cursory understanding of like what's happening instead of like really, really deep, like, like this new stuff is all this. And the deep understanding you should have is the music that you make. Because sometimes it's hard to be authentic with your creation. Sometimes I'll make stuff and be like, this kind of sounds like if Alchemist played the trumpet, which sounds cool, but maybe is not. You just listen to a lot of Alchemist. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's it's not what you're trying to do.
I want to hear that record.
You want to hear it?
Yeah,
I'll send it
absolutely.
to you.
Absolutely. If someone told me, hey, this record, not even knowing who made it, they're like, hey, this random person made this record. It sounds like Alchemist playing trumpet. I want to fucking hear that record.
I got in a really big Alchemist kick maybe November, and with my Cloud series, I just was like, when I was trying to produce, I was trying to make stuff very, very inspired by him, which, I respect and I do want to do that. But is that the most authentic representation of myself?
I don't know. Are you copying or stealing?
That's the question, right? Am I copying or I see it? Clark Terry said, in order to be great, you need to imitate, assimilate, and innovate, right? So if I'm imitating Alchemist, I think that's fine. If I'm trying to sell it, make money off of it,
Yeah.
maybe not
Different
good. But maybe if I'm doing it to be like, I really want to understand how I do stuff like this, and then how can I take that and have an authentic, sound of myself that I'm presenting, and
Yeah.
then how can I innovate on top of that?
Absolutely. I mean, shit, even with podcasting, it's like I'm stealing from the people that I think are great at facilitating conversations, no doubt.
Well, yeah.
Because they're the
when's
people-
the ad cut? The ad cut coming from Better Greens or
Better help.
yeah, Better Health, or what's the greens that everyone drinks? What I mean?
Oh, yeah. There's so many.
I get there's also like the pills. I'm thinking about all the political podcasts I listen to. It's like yeah,
Some golden hour mushroom pills.
you know what I mean? It's like stuff like that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, where's the ad coming for that? Oh man.
What brought you to teaching, and what would you say your approach to doing so is?
I have been blessed to have some really great and really terrible teachers. I've had teachers that have made me want to stop playing music, and I've had teachers that have made me want to become a teacher. And there's also been people that I have really learned a lot by studying with them and have not liked their teaching style. So like the first job I had,
I want a list of names of all these people now. I'm just kidding.
yeah, we're gonna rank them.
That'll be on the Patreon episode with Noah Simpson. If you want to know the list of names, I'm going to share the money with Noah, because if he's going to out people, it's only right if we split the money 50-50. But a Patreon episode with Noah Simpson.
We gotta get the Patreon. It's
going up next week.
And then the YouTube Premium episode also. There's 2 different tiers there. Oh my gosh. My first teaching experience was at a Montessori school.
Okay.
Do you know much about the Montessori method?
I mean, I think I understand what the structure or lack of structure, like it's
Like a
but-
lack of structure. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I
it's not
think
your typical.
absolutely. I'm coming from a public school where like
Yeah.
they just bonk you on the head almost for being an idiot. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was very, very different. And one of the first things they told me was like, never say no to a child. You don't say no. You don't say bad. You don't say that's wrong. You don't do that. Never do that. Never ever. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, there was like, I'll get fired if I do this. But it's like, just engage with the child and make sure they're engaged with the activity that they were doing. So when you have like, I was teaching class sizes of like 15 kids, and for the most part, they're there. They want to play music. They want to engage.
Yeah.
And then there's one kid that puts down the tuba and says, I'm going to go color now. And you have to be like, okay, I'm going to follow up with you. Okay. And it's like, all right, they're going to go color. That's whatever. That was kind of interesting to teach in that method, when a student would play something and you couldn't say, that's wrong, do it again. That's wrong, do it again. You have to be like, hey, you're really close. What's with this note? What do you think about this note? Is this note like this note?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's like that. Oh, there we go. You know what I mean? So that was like really, really helpful.
It forced you to maybe ask different questions of your students. Maybe
It made me realize that people learn the best when they find the answer themselves. So a good teacher will not give you the answer. They'll give you the way to get the answer. And that has been something that has really, really carried through into my teaching. Now as I teach, I only teach college students currently, but I do the Stanford Jazz Workshop with younger kids. And yeah, like watching these younger kids like kind of find the answer is like, oh man, like, they really understand this and they know how to apply this in this situation. And then, having one of these college kids being like, hey, why does Freddie Hubbard sound so good? I like Freddie Hubbard. Hey, Freddie Hubbard's pretty cool. Why does it's like, cool. Let's listen to Freddie Hubbard. What's Freddie Hubbard doing here? Okay, well, he's playing really fast, and like it's like a pentatonic. It's a pentatonic, and the pentatonic is this. So it's just this, and then they play it, and they'd be like, oh wait, I can kind of play like Freddie Hubbard. There you go. You know what I mean? So once these kids find their answers, like it's so rewarding to watch that realization happen with a student. I'll teach the day I die, and whether that's trumpet, whether that's jazz music, whether that's, one of my really deep goals is to have my own school of music that focuses on just improvised media or time-based media, stuff that is created in the very, very short term. I want to do that till the day I die, honestly.
Yeah, I would just imagine it just keeps you more engaged with your instrument as well. Like maybe you're diving into things that you didn't think that you would be diving into. If if a student is, telling you about this particular song that speaks to them, and you're saying, "Hey, let's break that down."
That's another thing with teaching that I think is something that I try to practice, is demonstrating that it's okay if you don't know. And I will always say, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know this. Let's find out together. Let's learn together." You know what I mean? I don't need to be the source of all information. It is just my job to show students how to get information and how to understand the information and how to, show it.
Yeah. What is it about that immediacy that you were talking about that you like that time?
Oh, like the time-based media?
Yeah.
I love time-based media. There's something wrong with my brain fundamentally. I was a part of a study when I was younger, where I got interviewed and I got a brain scan where they were looking at parts of my brain. And yeah, like the way that my brain is set up is to create things in the short term, is to talk to someone, to look at someone, to talk to someone, to have a conversation, to improvise, to make things in the short term. But I was recommended to play chess and do Tai Chi. Two things that I don't actively do, but things that take long times to do. I'm not the best at, but doing things in the short term, I think, is freeing. Sitting down and having a conversation with someone, you know what I mean? Like, this is so fulfilling for me. It fills my cup. It makes me so happy. And so if I were to teach people how to improvise, how to create time-based media, I would say, okay, how effectively can you sit down and have a conversation like this?
Yeah.
Where you can kind of go anywhere, where you can be really flexible. How effective are you at sitting down and playing your instrument within a certain context? How effective are you at creating something with a very small, if I gave you a paintbrush and a canvas, what can you do in an hour? That's a finished work. You know what I mean? Everyone does that. Every single person. You know what I mean? When it's tuna sandwich time and you only got 20 minutes, like, what kind of tuna sandwich can you make in 20 minutes?
Yeah.
What kind of tuna sandwich can you make in 3 hours?
Forcing that different creativity.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's something there for everyone to think about how time affects what we're making and what is possible in that set period of time.
Yeah. That's why it's so fun to watch like a cooking show where they're like, you have 30 minutes to make a 3-course meal.
Do you like the inverse ones where it's like, you have 3 hours?
Yeah, I like both.
Yeah.
Because I think both are exciting.
I think it's...
And sometimes you see people actually choke up or, make more errors when there is more time because they think they have
those like baking
all of this
shows?
space. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, dude, I started this cake like an hour ago and this is not going to work. So I need to pivot with like the other 2 hours I have left.
Right.
It's just like we were talking about at the very beginning, reels content, short form content, and long form content. Like Great British Baking Show, you know what I mean? When they're like baking for like 3 hours, you got 3 hours to make this crazy cake. Okay, see what you can do that. And then Chopped, you have 10 minutes. Here's some really weird ingredients. Make something.
Right. Yeah. There's one of the most recent cooking shows that I really like is called Next Level Chef. It's a Gordon Ramsay show.
Oh, brother. You want to talk about Next Level Chef?
I mean, we have 7.5 minutes, Noah, before this card runs out. But I do want to say, but speaking to that particular show, in the season finales, they get a certain amount of time to make all 3 courses, but they can use that time however they want. Like if they use only 20 minutes out of the hour on the first one, they still have 40 minutes to complete the other 2.
So think about that time
but
management.
Some people, they're going to spend 27 minutes and then it's like they get who's got the most time for that last dish. Like some people are going to have 30 minutes, some people are going to have 25, and it's fun to see how that time like works against them for them.
Time management for creation of anything, of cooking, of making art, of structuring your day. Time management is like maybe one of the most important things that I feel like is also very slowly getting lost. I know, like, I'm guilty of waking up in the morning and then looking at my phone, and it's like, it's been an hour.
Yeah.
I've lost an hour
Right.
to looking at my phone. Has anything really been accomplished?
Yeah.
Well, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got all this other things to do. But, you know, having those different priorities, I think, is really important. I'll have people, you know, we'll play tunes. They'll be like, okay, you can only play one chorus. Like, play a perfect one chorus. And kids really, really struggle with that. You know, 2 choruses, you know, I'm good. 4 choruses, you know, that's all right. And then I'll say, okay, you're going to take 20 choruses.
Yeah.
We're going to play this jazz standard that's 32 bars. You're going to take 20 choruses. How good can you make this?
Absolutely. This has been super fun, man. This like, I don't know, we've been talking for nearly a couple hours. It's kind of like flown by.
I know, just chilling and hanging.
Had so much fun getting to chat with you and getting to know you through this conversation.
Man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, just love your playing, and I want to play the episode out with a track called "Private" off that
You're
that
gonna do
Damino
private?
record.
You're gonna do that one? All right,
I want
awesome.
to play it out with that one, and I'll put all the links in the episode notes so people can keep up with you. I know you're playing, you said, like 4 times at the MONTAVILLA Jazz Festival, so I will mention that up top of the episode as well, so people can tap in with that. The MONTAVILLA Jazz Festival schedule and website will be locked into the episode notes as well. Is there any regular gigs that, I mean, I feel like you're playing at least once or twice a week somewhere with somebody.
Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place, if I'm being honest.
Follow the IG.
Follow
Is
the
that
IG.
helpful?
There will be a new regular thing soon that I
Cool.
can't quite announce,
Okay.
but coming very soon.
Just follow Noah on IG, and you'll know about where he is playing regularly. And yeah, such a pleasure to jump on the mics with you, man.
Thanks again
And
for having
talk
me.
music and tuna sandwiches and,
And hot dog,
dogs,
yeah.
Top Chef, whatever.
Whatever.
It was a fun one. We went some different places, you know.
As we should.
Yeah, I told you, podcasting is jazz too.
Absolutely. Absolutely, podcasting is jazz.
No, we end every episode of the podcast with the guest saying the tagline for the show. It's one of the only structured things within this podcast, and it's a program. It's just the way my grandfather says the word program. He always says
Where's he
program. He's from California. It's
Program.
really not a regional. Doesn't seem to be a regional thing. It's just if he was speaking to you, he would say, "Noah, tell me about the school program you're teaching."
Program.
So if we get the Noah Simpson, it's a program. You can deliver it however you would like. I don't have any effects pedals for you, so you're gonna have to do it.
It's all inflection.
You're gonna have to raw dog it.
It's all inflection. It's a program.
He nailed it, everybody. It's Noah Simpson. Check out everything Noah is doing. Links will be in the episode notes. And that's the Jelly Jams. And we will catch you on the flip side, Portland, or wherever you are listening from. Cool, man. We did it.
Man, thanks so much.
Hell yeah.
Oh, it was dope. That was easy.
That was so fun, dude.